Welcome to Ivy League Murders. The Ivy League. They are the 8 most prestigious colleges in the nation. And as we've seen recently, people will do or pay anything to get their kids into them. When you hear Ivy League, what comes to mind? Is it the hallowed halls of education and tradition? Professors in tweed coats pontificating about Walt Whitman? Elitism? Finals clubs? What you probably don't think of is murder. On this podcast, we focus on cases affiliated with the Ivy League, exploring the darker side of higher education. What happens when genius becomes evil? We deep dive into the stories behind the picture-perfect Ivy Leaguers who appear to have everything and throw it all away. And for what? Love? Money? Obsession? My name is Sarah Alcorn. I'm a Harvard graduate, and I've been a private investigator since 1999. Join me and longtime crime diva Laura McDonald for Ivy League Murders.
Murder and Such contains true stories about murders, the macabre, true crime, serial killers, and other dark subject matter. This includes adult themes, explicit language, descriptions of gore, violence, and other information provided by news articles, witness testimony, and public record. Murder and Such is not intended for all audiences, and although warnings will be set in place, listener discretion is still advised.
Hey, real quick, listen to this.
I was just at CVS and a man that doesn't even work for CVS wouldn't let me in the door and he threw me out the door. He doesn't even work for CVS. He wasn't wearing one of their shirts. What the fuck? Anderson Cooper paid this man to make me angry. They're not letting me buy things to hydrate myself. I want to buy some tea. Fuck you, America, for making me live like this. What the fuck is wrong with everyone? They said I'm not allowed to buy anything. What the fuck?
That's kind of an odd way to start off an episode, but hey, don't be like batshit Becky, wash your hands, and wear a fucking mask. But welcome back to Murder and Such. I'm your host Hunter, and I do hope that you've enjoyed, or tolerated, listening to my smaller episode about the Jacksonville mass shooting, which was episode 66.5. I might do smaller episodes here and there as kind of a buffer between episodes, but the feedback that I received about that one was nothing short of incredible. But I regrettably forgot to inform you all that you need to wash your fucking hands, so I'll be sure to put that at the end of this episode. But speaking of washing, how about some housekeeping? The last few weeks has been nothing short of spectacular. I did put on Patreon that if I hit 100 patrons, I would be able to put out some more content. But although I'm not quite there yet at 84 patrons at the time of recording, I'll still try to do my best because you guys apparently like my show. But hot damn, I have gotten a lot of support over the last few weeks. So a special thank you to the lovely Sarah Holston for jumping on the Patreon page. A thank you to Miss Kat Dryden over in the UK for her patronage. A heartfelt thank you to my new patron and executive producer Natalie Peterson for her donation. An insane thank you to Laura McDonald for her very generous donation to the show by becoming an executive producer. Also, you probably heard her ad at the beginning of this episode, so go listen to Sarah and Laura on Ivy League Murders on all of your podcast services. And 2 more thank yous to the beautiful Mr. Dakota Curtis for upping his pledge to becoming an executive producer. And, as always, a thank you to the always incredible Daddy Thick Dick for upping her donation as well and becoming an executive producer. And if you would like to help fund the show, pay for my ever-expanding gut to help produce more episodes, plus get them ad-free as well as the Richard Chase stickers, you can find the Patreon at patreon.com/murderandsuch or visit murderandsuch.com for more info. And if you decide to donate more than $5 per episode, you get my everlasting love, and you get thanked as an executive producer at the end of each and every episode. So thank you. Now, continuing on, I will be conducting a third part to the Dustin Hawking case, as there was a new, I don't know how to say it, ultimate development in the case, but I'm still working out the kinks on how to approach that one. But I want to thank you all for starting to listen to the show when you heard about Dustin Hawking, and thank you for telling a friend about it, and thank you for the absolutely amazing 5-star reviews that you've left me in the past few weeks on Apple Podcasts. That has helped me more than you could ever imagine. And be sure to leave one if you haven't yet. I'll even send you some free stickers if you want them, and it only takes about 10 seconds. But I'm going to stop gushing over all of that right now, and I'm going to start jumping into this case. Now, this one was a strange one that I came across. To be honest, before seeing a few things about it, I found that there weren't very many podcasts who have covered this one. But this one was beyond bizarre, and as the old saying goes, the truth is stranger than fiction. So how many of us have had a vague book moment online? Maybe some confusion in your relationship, or if you've got a shithead neighbor who keeps blasting the same goddamn song over and over and over on their radio for hours on end, like I have. But yeah, we all do it from time to time. Hell, sometimes even just asking for input that you're working on. Like how about this? 10 years ago, on the day that I started writing this episode out, I posted something on Facebook saying, working on a 1 gigabyte mix of songs with killer drums to practice to. Got some good shit already. Any suggestions? One friend of mine suggested Judas Priest, another one had suggested Abigail Williams, and another friend had commented, "Text me. I listened to Avril Lavigne today and thought of you. That's right. You know it's true." And to that, I said that's the reason why I didn't text them back. Because, you know, Avril Lavigne. Blech. But we're all connected. Hell, it's even grown more over time, even in the past 10 years. Well, think about this. A thing that happened this past weekend was that I was talking to a listener of mine by the name of Amber Dawson in Australia. Turns out, we like a lot of the same music. So I sent her a song to listen to, and I also sent that same song to Rochelle, who is the co-host of Nature vs. Narcissism. Just some good-ass hardcore jams from a band named Tapestry. And I hadn't done too much research into them, but I really dig their music, and Rochelle said she digged them as well. But when I sent that message to Amber, she messaged me back and said, "Bro, Darcy, the lead guitarist, is my best friend," and then proceeded to send a picture of him and her, in which she took a screenshot of that and sent it to Darcy and sent me back his response, which he replied, "Ha ha ha ha, that's so fucking sick. Tell him he's a legend for me." Well, no, Darcy, you're a legend, and honestly, that fucking song is awesome. But all of this is just because a friend and listener of the show wanted some music to listen to. So really think about that when I'm telling you that with the power of the internet, we're more connected than you could ever imagine. Hell, I'm just some guy who sits in an air-conditioned room in my house. I talk into a mic, and you're listening to me. You're sharing my episodes. You're sending me feedback. I'm just some dude who talks, but all of you listen. I'm not part of some major network. I'm not some celebrity. I'm just a dude who does research and passes along information. But here we are, connected. But let's go a little deeper into something that has a little more relevance to this episode itself. What about relationship advice. It used to be something that you could write on a letter to Dear Abby and hope that she answers you in her column. The internet has done away with a lot of the things that used to be the norm, or has seen the format or style transition into the digital era. It's just a sign of the times. God, I sound like a fucking boomer. But as I mentioned on a prior episode, there's this tiny little company that you've probably never heard of called Reddit. I do enjoy Reddit, although I hardly use it except to find some Peppa Pig stuff that I can make into a shitty Photoshop, or I browse the gaming, leaks, and rumors page, but there's almost always a subreddit for pretty much any topic that you're interested in. Like, are you a fan of Dungeons & Dragons? There's a subreddit for that. True crime? There's a subreddit for that as well. Public freakouts is one of my favorite ones out there. Good old-fashioned fuck you, Karen? I just subscribed to that one today. A Trump supporter? Well, r/The Donald has been completely shut down due to hosting conspiracy theories and racist, misogynistic, Islamophobic, and anti-Semitic content, and there are standards in place, and it appeared that r/The Donald failed to meet our most basic expectations. So, there's some rules in place. But the one thing I'm going to talk to you about today is somewhat, let's just call it unsuspecting. Well, at least the outcome, I'll say. But this one subreddit has been used by people in troubled relationships, possibly looking for answers or how to approach a situation that they feel like they may not have the best judgment with. The subreddit I'm going to be talking about in this one is called r/relationship advice. The group info is described with a short header that says, "Need help with your relationship? Whether it's romance, friendship, family, coworkers, or basic human interaction, we're here to help." And at the time of recording, there's 3.6 million active Redditors who are currently subscribed to r/relationship advice. To be honest, the vast majority of users I've encountered on Reddit seem pretty well level-headed. There's been some controversies over people saying some pretty fucked up things on that sub, like wanting to exact physical revenge over a scorned lover, but there's been a lot more instances of people actually telling someone how it is and what advice they should take. Like, if you're having bad thoughts, maybe you should talk to a professional for the sake of others and for your own sake. Almost the same advice that I would give somebody myself. At the time of recording the episode, some of the top posts on this sub are made by usually throwaway accounts because almost nobody wants their relationship inquisitions tied to a username that they use on other platforms. But this post is from a 22-year-old female, and it says, "My boyfriend, a 23-year-old male, wants to move forward in the relationship even though we disagree on fundamental matters like religion and kids." And she starts off the post with TLDR, which, if you don't know, it stands for too long, didn't read. But she puts, "I'm an atheist who does not want kids. Boyfriend is religious and does. He expects me to change my mind over time." The rest of the post goes on to say, "We met 2.5 years ago, so being a 19-year-old, I wasn't set on kids and adult stuff, so we started dating and hit it off. I told him I'm an atheist a few months in without thinking much of it, and apparently it was a big deal to him. I thought we got over it, but sometimes he will slip and reveal that he expects me to, or at least wants me to. Happens rarely, and he shuts up once I get defensive. As for kids, he was clear on not having kids being a deal breaker. And I was vocal on not liking or wanting them from the beginning, but I thought I at least have a decade of fertility to think about it. And he dismisses that as just fear of childbirth that I will get over. And now he's talking about moving in together and getting engaged, so tick-tock, I'm panicking because I feel like I have to make a decision now. I posted this in an anon forum, and I got told I'm a terrible person who wasted his time. Do I end an otherwise good relationship because I might not change my mind over kids? What if I do? This post actually gained some major attraction where they made a couple edits, and it said, "Edit, this got way bigger than I thought. I did read each response, and I want to say that I thank you for taking your time. Most of you had been nice and understanding, and I appreciate that. There's been some mentions of church, so for context, he's a moderate Muslim, doesn't practice much except for fasting. I guess he might expect that from potential kids." End quote. So with Reddit, people can comment back and they can give their advice, and one of the top comments says, quote, "You're not awful. You didn't waste his time. But it's now breakup o'clock. A relationship doesn't have to be permanent to be meaningful," end quote. And a person replies to that comment and says, quote, "Treasure the good times as fond memories and move on. Find yourself a nice atheist boy who also wants you to remain child-free and values you as you are." And to me, I think that's some pretty good advice in my opinion. Sure, there's always going to be dissenting opinions, but in today's day and age, with women just trying to feel validated with their opinions, the person who commented is completely right. Breakups do suck, but trying to lie to yourself, lose yourself, and trying to appease someone else who doesn't necessarily value as who you are can be incredibly troubling. People split up, they move on, and they go about their lives. For her question, I hope that she does find a nice atheist boy who doesn't want kids, and I hope her boyfriend can find a nice Muslim woman who wants to have kids with him. I mean, even with them at 22 and 23, they are still awfully young. And I don't know about you guys, but I didn't find the love of my life at that age, and even if it was, that ship has sailed a long time ago. God, what is up with me feeling old for this episode? Anyways, this episode centers around a user of Reddit who decided not to use such an anonymous or throwaway account for his postings, and everything happened in, well, almost real time. But as always, I thank you for being here, I thank you for listening, I thank you for your reviews, and I thank you for telling a friend. My name is Hunter, and you're listening to Murder and Such, and this is episode 67, Jason in Hell. I'm just warning you that this episode will have very lengthy excerpts from Reddit and news articles around the area. This all started on Friday, October 28th of 2016 at 9:43 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. A Reddit post was made by a user named Jason in Hell. Not all usernames have to be indicative of something, but the fact that he used the name Jason there was pretty telling, and we'll get into that in just a bit. But Jason in Hell made a post in the Relationship Advice subreddit, and the post reads, "I'm having a hard time coping with my wife having cheated on me with our neighbor." It also states that the user is 30 and male, his wife is 29 and female. His neighbor is 51 and male. Now, it's a very lengthy post, but I think it's worth reading everything in context, so I'll be reading his entire post word for word. The TLDR, or too long didn't read, for it says, quote, "I caught my wife cheating on me over a year ago. I stayed with her for the sake of our children, but I haven't been able to get it off my mind since." End quote. And here is the rest of the post. "It has been 476 days since I confronted her about it. How do I know? Because every time I catch myself thinking about it, I tell myself, it's only been X days. Maybe you won't think about it tomorrow." So to go back to the beginning, I had just taken on a new project and new responsibilities at work. I was working a lot of hours, 60 plus per week, and was notably stressed. It was in May of 2015 that I noticed that she had added a password to her phone. When confronted about it, she told me it was because she was planning my Father's Day present and didn't want me to ruin the surprise. About a week later, she came to me and told me that she felt guilty keeping a big secret from me, and told me that she was having our neighbor, a contractor, build a home office for me as my present. It struck me as kind of odd in our 6 years together. She never said she felt guilty about anything, and always insists that she never regrets anything in her life. Time goes on, her phone is still password protective, and things don't feel right. I see her using her phone and smiling to herself more and more often. But when I ask her what she is doing, she says nothing and puts her phone away. So one morning, I wait for her to get in the shower and I grab her phone before it requires the password. I go through her messages to find that she is texting the neighbor, quote, "I am all covered in frosting. You want to lick it off?" There were no other messages to that neighbor, but I found out later that it was because she had set up her phone to delete messages after a certain amount of time. I felt uncomfortable with it, but I knew she had a perverted sense of humor, and I thought she would never do anything to hurt me. More time goes by, and the neighbor is spending more and more time at our house, but the office is being completed slower and slower. I can't help but worry that something isn't right, so I start checking on our location using Google Timeline. It was at this point that I realized there are large gaps in her GPS history because she was turning off her phone's GPS. Fast forward to July, and at this point, the paranoia is driving me nuts. So I tell her that I need to install a new antivirus on her phone. While she has it unlocked for me, I install anti-theft software so I can remotely turn the GPS back on and set up AT&T message backup and restore so I can read all of her text messages from that point on my computer. The next day, my mother asks me to spend time with my 2 kids, so my wife drops them off with her and has the day to herself. I watch my wife's activity from work as she spends the day trying to meet up with the neighbor, but is unsuccessful because he is busy with another job site. That night, we get the kids back from my mom's house, and we go out to dinner with the neighbor, his girlfriend, and his son. My wife and his girlfriend are having a good time drinking, laughing, and joking around. His girlfriend mentions that they would like to go see Magic Mike XXL. I say it's a good idea. I'll watch the kids so my wife and her can go. So my wife and her go, and the neighbor and I go back to my house so the kids can play video games together. The kids are back in my son's room playing games, and the neighbor is sitting across from me on the other couch. It is at this point that my wife starts texting him. She is describing sex acts she would like to perform on him, and he is reciprocating. She tells him to check his Snapchat, and at the same time, I get a Snapchat from her too, and it's her fingering herself in a bathroom stall. They keep talking, trying to figure out when they can meet up and have sex. They decide on Monday morning after I go to work. So in my head, I already had planned to pretend to leave and circle back to catch them. But then they tell each other that they love each other, and all it is I can do to not leap off the couch and knock him out. But I contain myself, and I continue reading the conversation unfolding in front of me. He tells her,
"You're my girl now."
To which she replies, "Always have been." Ending with him writing,
"And always will be."
My wife and the neighbor's girlfriend return from the movie, and I ask them politely to sit down. I then ask the kids to stay in my son's room and shut the door. I return to the living room, and I confront my wife and the neighbor. I say, quote, "So you two love each other, huh?" My wife goes into full-blown denial mode, and my neighbor's girlfriend starts smacking him. I ask my wife if she has been texting him, and she says no. So I show her the messages. She admits to it, but says it was the first time it had gone that far. I ask my wife if she has sent him pictures. She says no. So I show her the picture. She admits it, but says it was the first time. I ask her if she is having sex with him, and she says no. Because I didn't wait to catch them having sex together, I didn't have evidence to prove her wrong, so that one stayed unresolved. I tell her that I am leaving her. She tells me that she will make sure I never see my kids again if I do. She planned on me using the fact that I had attempted suicide in high school to prove me unfit to have the children. She continues to say that it was my fault for being so busy with work and stressed out, that she just wanted someone she could talk to. Then she gives me an ultimatum to decide what I'm going to do, or she will decide for me. The neighbor's girlfriend starts defending the two of them, saying that it couldn't have been serious if they weren't having sex, and that my wife and I are too perfect together to let this break us up. The neighbors go home, and my wife and I argue for the rest of the night about what we're going to do. We go to bed separately, having not resolved anything. We keep going back and forth on the subject all weekend and finally settle on we were going to separate temporarily while we figure out what we want. I was going to stay in the house, and she was going to take the kids and go to her mom's house. That Monday, I go to work, and I get a text from her in the middle of the meeting with my bosses stating that she had explained things to our kids, but that they were upset and I need to explain it to them also. I get home from work and find my kids crying. She had told them that mommy had to move out because dad was mad at her. When my son wanted to stay with me, she told him that he can't. My son put it together that if mommy has to move out because I'm mad at her, and he must move out because I must have been mad at him too. My daughter was crying because my son was. I don't think she was old enough to understand what was happening. It was at that moment I realized she was going to drag the kids through hell if I left her. So I swallowed my feelings and I begged her to stay. She agreed and insisted that I apologize to our neighbor since we were still going to need to hang out with them because our sons are good friends. I hate it, but I do it anyways. We still hang out with them from time to time, and they come to our various birthday and holiday parties. But I do anything for my kids, and I behave civil every time. Things died down for a while. I still think about it constantly. I worry, how can I keep from making her so unhappy that she cheats on me again? Then, almost a year from the original incident, around Father's Day again, she sends him pictures again. She claims that it was an accident, that she meant to send them to me instead. I don't fully believe her, but I move on anyway. Things have been quiet on that front for about 4 months now, but I still think about it constantly. This is going to sound stupid, but I feel like I have a part of my brain that I can't shut off, that is always thinking. I used to use that to solve programming problems, and it made me very good at my job. But ever since this incident, the only thing it thinks about is her and him, and if I did the right thing. My job performance has suffered, and I feel like I haven't gotten sleep in months. I'm afraid that after this much time, and the fact that I begged her back, that to say that I want a divorce now would only make her more vindictive towards my children and I just feel like I have to put myself so deep in a hole that I can never get back out. I haven't really talked to anyone about this. I didn't want to talk to my mom about it because I felt she would treat my wife differently, and I didn't need the two fighting any more than they already do. I tried talking to one friend about it, but his advice was to put my trust in God, but that was not much solace for me as I am an atheist. So I have no clue what to do with my feelings or how to move on from this. End of post. So, that's Jason in Hell's story about his wife. And honestly, let's start breaking this down. There are some questionable things that he did that I don't necessarily agree with him doing. The big one is that he installed a program that he could use to track not only his wife's location, but also read every text message, view every Snapchat, etc. And the reason why I'm not okay with this is because, I'll admit, years and years ago, that was me. Looking back at it now, I'm definitely not proud of my actions. But I also know how much of a mental mindfuck it can be to not only suspect someone of being unfaithful, but when you find out, you almost want every single detail, and it practically becomes an addiction. Hell, within the last 8 or 9 years, a friend of mine that I was really close with put a GPS on his now ex-wife's phone and asked me if I knew where, what was around this area or that area, so he could track her every movement. And this was after my time of kind of doing the same thing, so I told him that he should talk to a mental health professional and talk to a lawyer. It's not okay to do something like that, and I can't say that I don't understand what this man was going through. But it did confirm his deepest fears, unfortunately. Now, the vast majority of the responses to his post were pretty straightforward. One of the top comments on the post read, quote, "You are trying to navigate this alone, and you should seek counsel ASAP. You should have done this months ago. Your wife's threats should hold no weight until you can get a professional legal opinion on your exposure in a divorce. You won't be doing your children any favors by remaining in a marriage that is now founded on lies, infidelity, and outright bullying. She made you apologize to your neighbor? And you did it? Come on, man, you cannot honestly say that you see any sort of future here that isn't a hell on earth for you. So for your sake and the sake of your children, get to a lawyer ASAP and follow his directions to the letter," end quote. And another person replied to that saying, "Exactly this. Try avo.com and you can get a 15-minute session immediately with a lawyer to assess your situation. It's going to be a really rough time for you, but you need to play it cool and think of all of your next moves carefully. Get a good lawyer that will have your back," end quote. And another person took the reference from the movie named American Beauty and said, quote, "This exactly. OP has free reign to do whatever he wants now. It's like that scene in American Beauty where Kevin Spacey catches Annette Bening in the drive-thru and says,
No. You don't get to tell me what to do. Ever again."
That should be you, OP, end quote. Now, OP is original poster, if you didn't know. But some of the people were also doing the not-so-proper thing and advocating for him by saying, "Wow, you apologized to your neighbor? Mate, you should have punched his light out and your wife's. You've just been shit on and then made to eat the shit and then made to say that you loved the taste," end quote. Now, obviously, violence would cause more trouble with this situation than help it. But this guy, Jason in Hell, just wanted some help with his marriage, some advice, what to do, what he found his wife to be doing, and although it may not be the most civil place on the internet, the vast majority of Reddit users can typically give some good advice for those who need it. To be honest, I'd probably tell him the same thing. get a lawyer, have your evidence, try to get what you need out of this as compared to sticking it out for the kids. My parents did the same thing for me, and I almost wish it hadn't played out like that growing up. But hell, it's just the internet, right? Anybody can shitpost their entire life story or fabricate one of their own. But just as easy as you can make something up, you can also throw it away. When it comes to advice, I don't even take some of the best advice that I've given other people who have asked me. I've been in crappy relationships and stuck through it because either I'm a masochist or a glutton for punishment. So whether or not Jason in Hell decided to take the Redditor's advice was completely up to him. You can take it or leave it, but whether you act on it is a completely different subject.
My name is Paige, and I'm the host of Reverie True Crime. Reverie means to daydream, but even daydreams can become nightmares. Come join me and get lost in horrific reverie about true crimes and eerie events. Reverie True Crime Podcast, available wherever you stream your favorite podcasts.
And listening to a story, I'll be happy to report that Jason in Hell wasn't just looking for a chance to tell his story and throw advice to the wayside, because he had posted again on November 1st of 2016 at 8:32 a.m. Eastern Time with a post titled, "Update. I'm taking your advice." The post went on to read, "Last time on Reddit." And then he inserted a link to his original post that I read to you. He went on to say, "Instead of trying to fix something she doesn't want to fix, she has refused counseling several times in the past before this even happened. I am going to get myself and my kids out. I meet with an attorney next week. Thank you everyone for helping me see how far I had my head up my ass." End quote. Now, one person had actually quoted the part where he said, "Thank you everyone for helping me see how far I had my head up my ass," and replied with, "Thank fucking God. Some guys out there never get their head out of their ass. Good for you. Find a good woman. They're out there." And another Redditor replied with, "Attaboy. Keep us posted. It's a long and scary journey. We are right here with you every step of the way." And another one had replied with, "Be strong. I advise you to move on to a forum about infidelity, like Talk About Marriage, CWI, Love Shack, Surviving Infidelity for support and advice on the long term." End quote. And like I said, pretty much anything that you're into, there's a subreddit that's dedicated to it. So this person was like, "Hey, it's going to be a battle, but I think that these people can also give you help and support you." But I'll also be happy to report that Jason in Hell followed through with his plans. And almost 2 weeks to the day of him making that update post, he met with an attorney, started getting the paperwork rolling, and was finally going to leave his wife. I'll admit, I've been in a situation where someone cheated on me, and I never had marriage or kids involved, and it's truly something hard to fathom. A relationship is supposed to be life, love, support, understanding, compassion, empathy, partnership, and adventure. Oh, and trust. Yeah, that's kind of a big one there too. But when you're in a relationship with someone that you've come to find out has been unfaithful with you, it kind of throws trust out the window to an extent. Physical and emotional cheating are pretty fucking bad and can really hurt. If you've been in a situation, you can probably remember how deep your heart sunk into your stomach and how it felt when it was first confirmed to you. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, non-binary, but when your partner kind of confirms your worst fears, it feels like your life, love, support, understanding, empathy, partnership, adventure, and trust gets thrown out the window and replaced with hopelessness, confusion, anger, resentment, sadness, depression, anxiety, and distrust. A stark contrast to what you should or want to be feeling. But at least for Jason in hell, he was paving himself a new road to create a better life, career, and future for not only him, but also for his 2 kids. And one final comment before Jason in hell stops using Reddit after thanking everyone for their advice and support was from a user by the name of Lovely Lady. And that comment read,
Best of luck to you and your children.
It's my honest opinion that Reddit can be a pretty fucking awesome place. But do you remember at the beginning of this episode where I said sometimes we're all connected and sometimes we are living on the internet in real time? Yeah.
Montgomery County 911, where's your emergency?
203 South Madison Street,
In what town?
Darlington.
November 17th of 2016, the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department in Indiana receives a phone call at about 4:35 in the morning. The voice that you are hearing is that of a woman by the name of Brandy Worley.
In what town?
Darlington.
Hey, what's going on there?
I just stabbed myself and I killed my 2 children.
You stabbed yourself and killed your 2 children?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what's your name?
Brandy Worley.
Brandy what?
Worley.
Okay. How do you spell your last name?
Worley.
And where are the children at?
In my daughter's room on the floor.
In your daughter's room on the floor? Okay. And what caused you to do this today?
My husband wanted a divorce and wanted to take my kid. I won't let him find my kid.
Okay, and how old are your children?
7 and 3.
10 and 3?
7.
7 and 3?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And where did you stab yourself at?
In the neck.
Okay. Are you bleeding?
Yeah, there's blood everywhere.
Okay, and where are you at?
In my living room.
You're in your living room?
Mm-hmm.
Are you armed now with the knife still?
No, it's in my children's room.
Okay, are you still there? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, where's your husband at?
Downstairs somewhere.
Okay, what's his condition?
I don't know. I haven't talked to him.
And when you say downstairs, is he in a basement or?
Yeah.
Okay, what's his name?
Jason.
Is what?
Jason.
Nathan?
Jason.
Jason? Jason Worley?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have any other weapons with you?
Yeah, no.
No? Okay. And what are you feeling right now? I mean, you're tired? Are you
Yeah. I took a lot of Benadryl.
You took a lot of Benadryl?
Yeah.
Okay. Is the front door unlocked?
No, we don't use it.
You know, you just use the back door?
Yeah. Side. It's on the side. It's unlocked.
Okay. And is there anyone else in the residence besides your children and you and your husband?
I called my mom.
You called your mom? What did she say?
To hang up and call 911, and she'd be here in a second.
What's your mom's name? Can you spell that for me?
The last name?
No, I'm having a hard time. I have a hard time hearing you. What did you say your mom's name was?
Oh.
Zell?
Zell.
Zell, okay. Zell, okay. Do you have a phone number for her?
This 911 call lasted for over 5 minutes, but it almost seemed like Brandy was going in and out of consciousness the entire time. I did edit it down to cut out a lot of the dead noise that was actually in it, and to prevent the names of those who weren't really involved in the case. But Brandy did indeed take a lot of Benadryl and was losing her spot a lot with the conversation. I tried finding the full phone call with dispatch, but those links were broken, even using the Wayback Machine that I used a lot in this episode. I couldn't grab the audio for you. I did attempt to contact the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department for the full 16-minute audio tape, and unfortunately they told me that I had to submit a Freedom of Information Act request to get that audio, which explains why the videos that I found before are now just dead links. I tried my best, but unfortunately, I have failed you. Allegedly, the phone call goes on to state that Brandy's mother arrived while she was still on the phone with dispatch. Her mother was obviously frantic, having had her daughter just explained that she stabbed to death her grandchildren. I will pay a ton of credit to the dispatch for this phone call because, honestly, it sounds like he almost doesn't believe her, but even if what she is telling him is true, he's keeping his composure and getting all of the proper information that the authorities will need when they proceed to the house. When Brandy's mother shows up to the house, she finds Brandy laying on the floor and covered in blood, and she takes the phone away from her and she speaks with dispatch for an undisclosed amount of time, but the dispatcher directs her to check on the two children. So she first entered her grandson's room, but he wasn't in there. But then she reaches her granddaughter's room and her worst fears were confirmed. People who listened to the original 911 call, the full 16-minute one, had said that her mother had screamed out in pure horror when she found the children. And then she gets back on the line with dispatch and tells them that her grandchildren are dead and Brandy is lying on the floor with blood pouring from her neck. That scream, though, is what wakes up Brandy's husband Jason from his slumber in the basement. He wakes up and finds both of his children dead in his daughter's room. His son, Tyler Daniel Clinton Worley, age 7 years old, and his daughter, Charlie Rose Jean Worley, at age 3 years old, were both deceased. When the police and EMS showed up on scene, they found what could only be described as one of their worst nightmares. 2 small children stabbed to death, and a mother who had attempted suicide with a self-inflicted stab wound to her neck. EMS had taken Brandy to a local hospital to have her treated for her injuries. And unfortunately, the investigation would continue, but eventually a coroner would be called to come and get Tyler and Charlie. For Jason and Brandy's mother, not much is known except they were taken in for questioning or for a statement about what transpired in those early morning hours. Later in the morning, the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department had a press conference about the incident.
Mark Castile. The reason we're here is to give additional details to the double homicide which occurred in Darlington this morning. This morning, the Montgomery County Central Communications Center received a 911 call from Brandy Worley, age 30. Brandy stated the address of the emergency was 203 South Madison Street in Darlington. Brandy further stated, and I quote, "I just stabbed myself and killed my 2 children." EMS and law enforcement were dispatched to the scene while the dispatcher kept Worley on the telephone. The first deputy arrived at the residence and confirmed that 2 children were in fact deceased at 4:43 a.m. The victims have been identified as Tyler Worley, age 7, white male, and Charlie Worley, age 3, white female. Brandy Worley made an admission to the deputy that she had killed her 2 children. Brandy was later transported to the hospital with self-inflicted injuries to her neck. At the time of this release, she's being treated at Methodist Hospital in Indianapolis. The Montgomery County coroner has informed me he has scheduled autopsies for both children tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Our detectives are still in the process of interviewing witnesses in this case, and a detective will be attempting to interview Brandy Worley as soon as her medical condition allows. No additional details of this crime will be released until the investigation is complete, as to not jeopardize the integrity of the investigation. I can't imagine the pain and the grief that these families are experiencing this morning. Please keep these families in your thoughts and prayers. I'll be happy to answer any questions I can.
Darlington is a very small town in Midwestern Indiana. The estimated 2019 census has the population at just 862 people. But this shook the community to its core. What could compel a woman to be so vindictive that her husband files for a divorce and she decides that you're not taking these kids, you're not having custody of these kids, and you will never see these kids again? As you heard from the sheriff's department, Brandy had no prior convictions and only just an accident, a car accident of all things, that there was no documentation about any possible child abuse that might have occurred in the household. But the vindictiveness and the savageness of what Brandy had just done was punctuated at the end when Brandy had told Jason, "Now you can't take the kids away from me." After that, the case kind of stalls for a bit as Brandy was being examined for her physical injuries and also for any potential mental health issues at the local hospital for some time. But do you remember how I say that we're all connected? People picked up on some things. 2 children, a father who was intending on filing for divorce or did file for divorce, and also the name Jason. Back on Reddit, people who were familiar with his posts started to comment on it. At the time, the username Jason in Hell was still an active user, but had not been deleted or scrubbed. But people started commenting on the 2 posts that he had made on r/relationship advice after some time. The similarities were eerie, to say the least, and they matched up all too well, so people had started to circle back to the original post that he made back in late October of 2016. On November 23rd of 2016, a Redditor had posted, "Oh my god, man, holy shit, this can't be fucking real. This guy's wife just murdered his kids. Fuck. Man, this can't be real. Please tell me this isn't real. Please, help. Tell me something is fake." Then they put a link to the website called JC Online, which stated, quote, "Full audio from November 17th 911 call. In a November 17th 911 call, Brandy Worley admits to stabbing herself and killing her 2 children," end quote. And that was also one of the websites where they had the full 16 minutes of audio that would not play. The other link was to a different subreddit that circled around a YouTuber and one of my favorite people on YouTube named Philip DeFranco. This post was made on November 21st by a user by the name of Jason in Hell. The post was named, quote, "A message for Phil." And I will say that when the poster mentions Trey, he's talking about Philip's oldest son. But the post read, quote, "My name is Jason Worley. I have watched Phil for several years now, and his words have always brought me comfort in times of great loss. Last Thursday, I lost my children, Tyler, age 7, and Charlie, age 3, in a horrific tragedy. Tyler loved watching people be like, particularly the episodes where Will would try new foods. While watching the episodes where Will sat in the hot car, Tyler turned to me and said, 'Why doesn't he just turn the air on?' When he saw Steve making his song on the BTS, he had to point out that he had a beard just like his dad. And he laughed uncontrollably at the inflatable dinosaur suit. Every time Charlie saw Trey, she would point and say, 'Baby,' and watch Trey's every move. Any kind words you can offer would be greatly appreciated. Hold Trey close. He is ever so special." He then posted an edit to it, saying, "I would like to thank everyone for the outpouring of love and support. It has been truly awe-inspiring. I feel compelled to share the tribute video that was shown at the services yesterday." And attached was a link to a YouTube video running 8 minutes and 16 seconds long, posted by a user named Jason Worley. And the video itself is incredibly touching. And I watched it all the way through. Nothing but pictures of Charlie and Tyler, and the song 7 Years by Lucas Graham, and Butterfly Kiss by Bob Carlyle played in the background. Jason is in several of them, and he looks happy, proud, like a loving father would look like. And the description of the video says, quote, "On Tuesday, November 22nd, we laid to rest our beloved Tyler and Charlie. My sister made this beautiful tribute to them. Rest well, sweet babies. Dad loves you." End quote. And I'm going to be honest with you. There's very few times when I'm researching an episode and I have a particular case that comes across my screens that genuinely chokes me up. But this one didn't. I was bawling for this. I'm fucking choking up now. All of these pictures of a son, a husband, a father showing his pain and sadness when he was trying to do something that benefited his kids, and one person comes along and steals that away from him. I'm not heartless, but some of these cases are harder than others, and some of them are older where we don't have a specific moment in time where we can just click a link and watch a video, but this one does. This one is recent, and this one hurt me. Maybe I am just getting old. I'm definitely gonna hug my cat later tonight. But this did garner a lot of attention, and fortunately for Jason, this grabbed Philip's attention as well. Now, Philip usually does one show Monday through Thursday, but he put out this extra clip on YouTube and Facebook, and I'm gonna play that audio for you. Here's that.
The last thing I want to talk about today is a story that hurts my heart. I've been really busy trying to finalize stuff on this channel, some projects, holiday stuff, and I haven't really been able to focus on my social stuff, the subreddit, things like that, even though I've been trying to maintain. What's great is that there are fantastic communities that support and can thrive without me. And there was a post I missed that was sad, but it wasn't specific. It was titled A Message for Phil. My name is Jason Worley. I've watched Phil for several years now, and his words have always brought me comfort in times of great loss. Last Thursday, I lost my children Tyler, age 7, and Charlie, age 3, in a horrific tragedy. Then he talks about how his kids would watch all the videos we put out. Every time Charlie saw a tray, she would point out and say, "Baby," and watch Trey's every move. Any kind words you can offer would be greatly appreciated. Hold Trey close, he is ever so special. But then, while I wasn't paying attention, people looked further into this story, and they found out that horrific tragedy it's accurate, but words can't really describe the pain that Jason must be in right now. It's public news, but it seems that Jason found out that his wife was cheating on him with his neighbor. Even after finding out, he wanted to figure out a way to make it work for the kids. Then there was a post about how he confronted his wife and the neighbor. She allegedly responded by threatening to take the kids away. He then realized that being in an unhealthy marriage wouldn't be good for the kids, and there was no reason to stick with it, so he went to talk to a divorce attorney. And then, because she didn't want him to get the kids, she killed her children. She stabbed them and then stabbed herself. Reportedly, she told police, "I didn't want him taking them, so I stabbed them. I just wanted to die with them. I just stabbed myself and killed my 2 children." And I don't know what to say. 2 innocent children were killed. Their futures stolen by the person that gave them life. So much love was just ripped from Jason's life. Nothing seems adequate because nothing is adequate for this. The moment you have a kid, it's love and then just fear. Fear that something's gonna happen to them, and he's living this nightmare because of a selfish, horrible person, a horrible monster. So to Jason, to your family, to everyone affected, it's just words. I hope you get through this. This is the most unfair situation. Obviously, I feel a little closer to you just knowing that I've been a small part of your life. Just father to father, human to human, I want you to know that there is love out here for you. And to the nation that's watching, whether it's because you want to support one of your own or you just want to support a person going through a hard thing. His employers started a GoFundMe so Jason can get through this, for the funeral, the other expenses, and even just so Jason can focus on dealing with his grief, not have to worry about finances at a time like this. It's gonna be top link. If you can donate, you want to donate, do that. If you don't have it, just share his page, not this video, just this page. We gotta try and be there for each other, and I hate that it's the worst stories that make me realize that there is love out there. And I want to pass on the message that Jason was giving to me, and that is, take who you have in your life and let them know you love them. I know that we just passed Thanksgiving. Maybe had some uncomfortable table talk, flat out arguments and cutting off ties. Just remember that there might not be a tomorrow. It's the eventual truth for every single one of us, and the bad things should make us hug longer and hug tighter. Fuck, just even remember to hug it all.
You remember how I usually tell you to call someone that you love today at the end of the episodes? Phil started me on that, if you must really know. Also, with his audio, he does what are called a lot of jump cuts. So that's how he edits his videos, but I highly suggest you check him out and check out the rest of the DeFranco family. It's truly a remarkable community. As for Brandy, according to Fox59.com, on November 28th of 2016, it read in full, "The mother accused of killing her 2 kids has been booked into the Montgomery County Jail after spending the last 11 days in the hospital. Brandy Worley allegedly admitted to killing her 2 children in the early morning hours of November 17th. According to court documents, Tyler Worley, 7, and Charlie Worley, 3, died after their mother stabbed them in the neck in their bedroom. Worley then tried to kill herself by taking a knife to her throat before calling 911. The children's father, Jason Worley, was sleeping in the basement at the time of the crime. He told officers he and Brandy were having marital problems and he had filed for a divorce the day before. Quote, "I do not want him taking them, so I stabbed them," Worley told police according to court documents. "I just wanted to die with them." Worley is formally charged with 2 counts of murder, end quote. So Brandy had healed from her wounds, was assessed, and then formally charged. With Jason, he then broke his silence in the relationship advice subreddit. The post was titled, "Update, Thank You." And the full post read, previously. Then he puts the Reddit links to the first 2 posts he made about his wife cheating, and then him taking the advice of the fellow Redditors. The post went on to say, "I would like to give a heartfelt and sincere thank you for the advice and support I have received here. No one could have foreseen the tragedy that resulted from me filing for divorce. You guys perform a wonderful service to those in need, and I hope you continue to do so in the future." End quote. And then he posted a link to the Indie Channel website about what had happened. After his update post gained some traction, he added a couple additional lines to his post, and those read, quote, "Edit. I would never ask for donations. I think it is incredibly tacky. I've worked very hard for everything I have in life, but because there has been a GoFundMe created by her family, and I can't guarantee that they won't turn it around to use it to support her in some way, I just ask that you spread the GoFundMe that my employer created for me." And then he posted a link to the GoFundMe. But, as he stated, that wasn't the only GoFundMe, because Jason had made a post in the subreddit called r/legal advice, and it said, quote, "Indiana, USA, I need GoFundMe advice." And that read, quote, "If anyone has any experience with GoFundMe that could give me some advice, it would be greatly appreciated. My former mother-in-law has created a GoFundMe using my last name and pictures of the children to raise funds for the mother who murdered them. She intends to use them for her daughter's medical and legal expenses. What can or should be done about this?" End quote. Now, a person had commented later saying that they had just checked out the other GoFundMe, and the mother-in-law stated that they were discontinuing the funding and all donations to her fund were being refunded. So, thank Christ for that. On November 29th of 2016, it was reported that Brandy had pled not guilty to the murders of Charlie and Tyler Worley, and was being held in the Montgomery County Jail without bond. With Jason's GoFundMe, it reached the initial $20,000 goal that he initially had, and it actually raised $56,045. But it's still very little solace for his loss, but they were also going to construct a monument on behalf of Charlie and Tyler. And the mock-up of that was posted on the GoFundMe. On the monument was Charlie and Tyler's birthdays and dates of death. Tyler loved Pokemon, and his favorite one was Rowlet, a short round owl who was a grass and flying type Pokemon. And for Charlie, she loved Olaf from the movie Frozen. So the monument was also going to include carvings of both Rowlet and Olaf on the face of it, along with a statement, "Rest well, sweet babies. Dad loves you." But for the meantime, Brandy was still placed in the Montgomery County Jail and awaiting trial. But later, on January 19th of 2018, Brandy stood in front of a court and had pled guilty to the murders of Tyler and Charlie. And again, from Fox 49, it said that Jason was in attendance at the time of her entering her guilty plea, and he was quoted saying, "She appeared to be just as unremorseful as she did in the 911 call. She spoke in a very matter-of-fact manner when describing her crime. It was heart-wrenching to hear her speak as she did. All I want and have ever wanted was to have her out of sight and mind so that I may move forward from this horror." End quote. Her sentencing was then set for March 19th of 2018. Then, in an article published on that date from journalreview.com, the headline reads, 120 years. Judge sentences Worley in the stabbing deaths of her 2 young children. The prosecuting attorney had stated that on the night of the murder, but hours before, Brandy had driven to a local Walmart in Crawfordsville, Indiana, saying that she needed to purchase some supplies for one of Tyler's school projects. When she was there, she went to the hunting supply section and bought herself a K-bar style combat knife. She went home and told Tyler that they were going to have a sleepover in Charlie's room. And when he went in, she hid the knife in Tyler's bedroom. So she literally led her son to his very own death. She had told Jason that he could sleep on the couch if he wanted to, but Jason told her that he would rather sleep in the basement. Later, after she had taken a handful of Benadryl in hopes of overdosing or sleeping through her bleeding out, she went into Tyler's room, grabbed the knife, and went straight into Charlie's room, and then proceeded to stab Tyler multiple times in the neck and the chest. Charlie then woke up to the repeated stabbing noises and had asked Brandy, "What are you doing?" But keep in mind, she's only 3 years old. Brandy had replied, "Nothing. Go back to bed." In which Charlie did. So Brandy waited until she went back to sleep and then stabbed Charlie as well. Her idea that was either she was going to overdose or bleed out. Luckily, neither of them had actually worked out for her, and she was still able to face justice. The sentence that was handed down to her was that she was to receive 55 years for the first-degree premeditated murder of her son, Tyler Daniel Clinton Worley. And the other sentence that she was to receive was 65 years in prison for the first-degree premeditated murder of her daughter, Charlie Rose Jean Worley. Both sentences to be served consecutively. She was given credit for time served since she was first booked into the Montgomery County Jail. At the sentencing, Judge Harry Siamis had stated that the community was at a loss with why the children were murdered. He was quoted saying, "Sometimes there's no explanation, and this is one of those cases." Brandy will be eligible for release when she is 151 years old in the year 2136. As for Jason, this man has been through a literal form of hell. And he never knew that when he first made his username, Jason in Hell, back when he tried to just get some relationship advice about his broken marriage. What started off as an inquisition into one of the better places on the internet turned into his own pure living hell. But as he found solace, advice, and comfort in talking to those strangers on the internet, on Thursday, June 21st of 2018 at 4:33 p.m. Eastern Time, a user by the name of Jason in Code had posted to r/relationship advice. And this post was titled, "An Update from Jason in Hell." Of course, as he would put in the TLDR, that said, "I'm doing better, and I continue to get better every day." But I'm going to let him put this in his own words. So, here is the full post.
The first thing you may notice is that this is being posted from a different account. I deleted the username Jason in Hell account in a knee-jerk reaction to seeing my Reddit posts in the news. I guess the first question to answer is, how am I doing? And to that, I would say, I am doing well. I have bad days, but I would think that is to be expected. It is just important that I, or anyone going through something, continue to use the support of my friends and family, as well as good coping skills to not let myself be completely defeated on those bad days. I won't lie, I struggled to get back where I am. For some time, I refused to sleep because of the combination of fear of what I would wake up to and nightmares about that night. For a time, I used alcohol to sleep, but my family loved me enough to take it from me before it became damaging and a permanent habit. I was hospitalized because I did have thoughts of ending my life because I missed my children so much. From that, I learned that you should never be ashamed of your mental health, and not seeking treatment will only make it worse, not better. We have all heard it, but if you or a loved one is struggling, seek immediate assistance. Your life is too important to throw away in a moment of weakness. By putting off treatment, I only caused everything else in my life to suffer. I lost my job and became reclusive to the house. But don't worry, I have been back to work since December, and I have nearly regained my former position and salary, so I am good and require no assistance. The second question would be, how do I feel about the sentencing? That is something that is harder to answer, because no matter what the sentence, nothing will bring back my beloved children. Do I think she should have gotten the death penalty, which Indiana has? No, I do not. She wanted to die, and after 9 years of giving her what she wanted when she wanted it, I was not going to give her another thing. Do I think the life sentence will have any appreciable effect on her? I don't know. One thing she always stressed for the entire time that I knew her was that she lived her life without any regrets. Even after I caught her cheating on me, she continued to say that she had no regrets. As for the ex-in-laws, they continue to be a problem to this day. Shortly after everything happened, they changed the locks on the home I was renting from them, and my property was still inside. And after trying to civilly negotiate the return of the property, it was required that I involve law enforcement. That is an ongoing legal battle. A member of the family accused me of stealing property I had purchased from them prior to the death of the children and threatened to take action against me unless I paid double what I had already paid them. So I alerted the authorities, and as far as I know, that is resolved. They continued to make visiting my children's grave difficult. During the 1-year anniversary, they sat in their truck and just watched me the whole time I was visiting the grave. Because of that, I don't visit the grave as often as I would like to. If I can impart on you something I have learned through all of this, is that you should always take the time to be with the ones that you love. It doesn't matter if they're asking you to read The Pokey Little Puppy for the millionth time or asking you to play Smash Bros, even though you both know they will wipe the floor with you every time. Just do it, because you never know what time will be the last time. Always make sure that they know how much you love them. And I had the fortune that the last thing my children ever heard me say was, "I love you. Good night. I will see you in the morning."
Not long after posting that, Jason had deleted his account on Reddit. Jason Worley, you were the father that those kids needed the most. I doubt you'll hear this episode, and in fact, I kind of don't want you to hear this to relive everything. But on behalf of myself and practically everybody out there, you are the best father that anyone could ever ask for, and you loved your children more than anyone else ever could. Thank you for your story, for your love, for your compassion, and thank you for your strength, because that will never end. Nor will the memories of Charlie, Rose, Jean, and Tyler Daniel Clinton. May they rest in peace. And that's where I'm going to end this one. I thank you for being with me for this incredibly troubling episode. It was one that I hadn't really looked too deep into or seen many people go in depth on, but I think their story needed to be told. Those poor children and their poor father. But if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. And if you have a chance to drop me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, that would be absolutely incredible. I would also love to thank my wonderful executive producers at patreon.com/murderandsuch for donating $5 or more per episode. So thank you to Laura McDonald, Martha Pierce, Justin Reebsum, Stacy Jenks, Natalie Peterson, Alex Aguirre, Dan Sheridan, Benjamin Welch, William T. Dawson, Sarah Thompson, Ashley Black, Dakota Curtis, and of course, Big Daddy Thick Dick. So thank you all for your generosity. You can follow Murder and Such on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Murder and Such, and you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, the PlayStation Network, Steam, and Snapchat at Huntor27. And you can follow my stupid photoshopped Peppa Pig stuff on Instagram at... There's an ice cream truck outside. But you can follow that bullshit at Instagram on at Poor Peppa Pig on Instagram. But as always, I thank you for being here. I thank you for listening. I love you all. And please, wear a mask and wash your fucking hands. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.